Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you never thought to check? I did. For 3 years, I trusted my brother completely. He managed our late father's properties. He sent me updates every few months, always the same message. Nothing to report. Still empty. Market is slow. 3 years, 36 months of nothing to report. Then a tenant called me by accident. She was looking for the landlord. She had a maintenance issue. She had been paying rent for 2 years, $1,400 a month, into an account I had never heard of. I sat in my car in a parking lot for 11 minutes. Then I called my father's attorney, and everything my brother had told me for 3 years started falling apart. My name is Rachel Weston. I am 38 years old. My father died in November 2020. He left us 3 rental properties in Providence, Rhode Island, worth a combined $1.2 million. He left them to me and Nathan equally, 50-50. His will was clear. His attorney, Marion Cole, has drafted it herself. She had been his attorney for 21 years. Nathan called me the week after the funeral. He said, "Let me handle the properties for a while. You have enough going on. I'm already in Providence. It makes sense." I said, "Thank you." I should have said, "Let's set up a joint account and shared reporting." But I was grieving, and Nathan was my brother, and some mistakes are made not from stupidity but from exhaustion and grief, and the misplaced belief that family is the one place you don't have to protect yourself. For 3 years, Nathan sent me updates. Every few months, a short message, sometimes just a few lines. Still quiet on the properties. Economy's tough. No solid tenants yet. Maintenance costs eating into reserves. I'll keep you posted. I believed him. I was busy. My job as a hospital administrator consumed me, even if unproductive. The object that changed everything was a phone. Not mine, a tenant's phone, dialing the wrong number. Her name was Angela Marsh. She had been renting the second-floor unit at 14 Cranston Street for 22 months. She was looking for the landlord because her kitchen faucet was leaking. She had the number written on a slip of paper that had been handed to her when she signed her lease. The number on that slip of paper was mine. Not Nathan's. Mine. Because the lease had been drawn up using both our names as landlords, and someone had given her the wrong number from the contract. She called me on a Tuesday afternoon in February. She said, "Hi, I'm trying to reach the landlord about a maintenance issue at 14 Cranston." I said, "I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong number." She said, "Oh, is this Rachel Weston?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Oh good, you're on my lease. I've been meaning to reach out to introduce myself anyway. I've been here almost 2 years now." I pulled over. Not metaphorically, I was actually driving. I pulled to the side of the road and stopped the car. I said, "I'm sorry, you've been living at 14 Cranston for 2 years?" She said, "Almost 2, since April 2022. Your brother Nathan handles most things, but your name is on the paperwork, so I assumed." I said, Of course. Can I call you back this afternoon about the faucet?" She said, "Of course. Thank you so much." I hung up. I sat on the side of the road for 11 minutes. 14 Cranston Street, empty since Dad died. Market is slow, nothing to report. 22 months of rent at whatever Nathan was charging. I picked up my phone. I called Marion Cole.
Marion Cole was 67 years old. She had been my father's attorney since 1999. She had known me since I was a teenager. She had cried at my father's funeral, quietly, in the back row. She answered on the second ring. "Marion," I said, "I need to ask you something." "Of course, Rachel." Her voice was warm. "What is it?" "Are the Cranston Street properties on any kind of reporting system? Is there anything that tracks income?" A pause. Longer than a normal pause. "Rachel," she said carefully, "what's happened?" I told her about Angela Marsh, about the phone call, about 22 months of rent I had known nothing about. Marion was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Come to my office tomorrow morning. And Rachel, don't contact Nathan yet, please." Her voice had changed, something careful in it, something that told me she already knew more than she was saying. I said, "Marion, do you know something?" Another pause. "Come tomorrow," she said. "I'll explain everything." Marion's office was on Westminster Street. Dark wood, legal volumes floor to ceiling, a framed photograph of my father on her desk from the day he signed the will. He was grinning, holding the pen like a trophy. I sat across from her the next morning. She pulled out a folder. "Rachel," she said, "I want to show you something I found 6 months ago. I've been trying to decide what to do with it." 6 months ago. I said, "What is it?" She opened the folder. Inside was a bank statement, an account I did not recognize, opened in the name of Weston Property Management, LLC. Nathan had formed an LLC. Without telling me, without my signature. Marion walked me through it methodically, the way she had been walking clients through difficult documents for 40 years. The LLC was registered in Rhode Island in January 2021, 2 months after my father died. Nathan was listed as sole manager. All 3 properties were transferred into the LLC's management agreement, and for 3 years the LLC had been collecting rent, not just 14 Stranston Street, all 3 properties. I stared at the bank statements. Marion placed a second document on the desk, a rent roll, the actual rent being charged at each property. 14 Stranston Street, $1,400 per month, occupied since April 2022. 22 Benefit Street, $1,650 per month, occupied since August 2021. 8 Hope Street, $1,875 per month, occupied since March 2022. 3 properties, all occupied, all generating rent. For 3 years, Nathan had told me they were empty. I did a quick calculation in my head. Even averaging conservatively, even accounting for the months before tenants moved in, Nathan had collected somewhere between $140,000 and $160,000 and deposited it into an account I never knew existed. Marion watched my face while I absorbed this. She said, "I found the LLC registration 6 months ago when I was reviewing your father's estate files for another matter. I cross-referenced the property transfers. Then I pulled the rent rolls from public records." I said, "Why didn't you tell me 6 months ago?" Her hands folded on the desk. She said, "Because Nathan is your brother. Because I didn't want to be wrong. Because I spent 3 months hoping there was an explanation I had missed." She paused. "And because I wanted to be certain before I caused irreparable damage to your family." I said, "Are you certain now?" She said, "Yes." I said, "What do I do?" She opened a third document. She said, "That depends on what you want. You have several options: a civil suit for breach of fiduciary duty and conversion of funds, a complaint to the Rhode Island Attorney General's office for potential criminal fraud, or a direct confrontation with Nathan demanding an accounting and repayment." I said, "Which would you recommend?" She looked at me steadily. She said, "All 3, in that order, starting today." I want to pause here for a second, because I know some of you are watching this and you have someone in your life right now who is managing something for you: money, property, a business, and you have not checked in a while because you trust them. Go check. Not because everyone is Nathan, but because checking is not a betrayal of trust. It is how you protect both of you. Drop a comment if this story is hitting close to home, and subscribe right now, because what happens when Nathan finds out I know is the part I have been building toward. There was one more person I needed before I could move. His name was David Park. He was a forensic accountant. Marion had worked with him for 15 years. He was 54 years old, methodical, precise. He wore the same style of gray suit every time I saw him and carried a calculator he insisted was more reliable than software. Marion called him while I sat in her office. He came the following morning. He spent 4 hours with the bank statements, the LLC registration, the rent rolls, the property transfer documents. When he was finished, he sat down across from me and Marion. He placed a single page on the desk.
his handwriting, clean and precise. At the top, Weston Property Management LLC, Summary of Funds. The numbers he had calculated were more specific than my rough estimate. Total rent collected between January 2021 and February 2024, $173,400. Rachel Weston's 50% share, $86,700. Funds distributed to Rachel Weston, $0. I looked at that zero for a long time. David said, "That's the conservative figure. It does not include potential penalties or interest in a civil judgment." Marion said, "It also does not include the management fees Nathan has been paying himself from the LLC account, an additional $24,000 over 3 years." I said, "He paid himself to manage properties he was stealing from?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Okay." I said, "File everything."
Nathan called me on a Thursday evening 3 weeks later. I knew why he was calling. Marion's civil filing had been served that morning. The AG's complaint had been submitted the previous week. His name showed up on my phone. I let it ring twice. Then I answered. "Hey," he said. His voice was tight. "Do you want to tell me what's going on?" I said, "I think you know what's going on." "Rachel, this is insane. I've been managing those properties for 3 years. Do you have any idea how much work that is? Finding tenants, handling maintenance, dealing with..." I said, "I know exactly how much work it is, Nathan, and I know exactly how much money it generated. $173,400. Do you want to know how much of that I received?" Silence. I said, "0. That's how much. $0 in 3 years. Rachel, that money went back into the properties, maintenance, repairs, vacancy costs." I said, "David Park has the bank statements. Every dollar in, every dollar out. The LLC paid for your car insurance for 2 years, Nathan. The LLC paid for a vacation rental in Newport last summer. Do you want me to keep going?" More silence. Then his voice changed, quieter, more careful. He said, "I was going to pay you back. I just needed more time." I said, "You had 3 years." He said, "Things got complicated. I got behind on my mortgage. I just needed to borrow some time." I said, "You didn't borrow anything. You took. There is a difference." He said, "Rachel, come on, we can work this out between us. You don't need lawyers. You don't need..." I said, "Marion Cole is filing in Superior Court on Monday. The AG's office has the complaint. David Park's accounting is in both filings." I said, "If you want to resolve this before Monday, you call Marion, not me. Marion." I hung up. I sat in the kitchen for a long time. James came downstairs. He had heard the call. He put a cup of tea in front of me without saying anything. He knew me well enough to know that sometimes the most loving thing is silence. I held the cup. I thought about my father, his truck, his diner, his tenants whose birthdays he remembered. He would have been devastated, but he also would have understood. He spent 33 years building something carefully. He trusted the wrong person to protect it. So had I. The difference was, I found out. Here is what happened in the 8 months after that phone call. Nathan did not call Marion before Monday. The civil suit was filed in Rhode Island Superior Court on March 11, 2024. Nathan hired an attorney. His attorney made 2 settlement proposals in April. Both were rejected by Marion as inadequate. On June 3rd, Nathan's attorney contacted Marion with a 3rd proposal, full repayment of $86,700 within 90 days, plus $18,000 in documented management fees he had misappropriated, a total of $104,700, plus formal dissolution of the LLC and transfer of all 3 properties into a properly structured joint trust with independent oversight. Marion recommended I accept. I accepted. The wire transfer arrived on August 29th, $104,700, into an account with both my name and Marion's oversight. The AG's office closed their inquiry after the civil resolution. Nathan avoided criminal charges, just barely. The 3 properties are now managed by a professional property management company, independent, quarterly reports to both me and the oversight structure Marion set up.
I receive my share of the rent every month, for the first time in 3 years. As for Nathan, he called me in September. He said he was sorry. He said he panicked. He said things got out of hand. He said he always meant to pay me back. I listened to everything he said. Then I told him I needed more time, not to forgive him. Forgiveness is a separate conversation that I am still having with myself, but to understand what I want from a relationship with him going forward, if there is one. I do not know yet. There is a woman in this story you have not heard about yet, Angela Marsh, the tenant at 14 Cranston Street, the one who called me by accident, looking for the landlord. She renewed her lease in April. With a new management company, at a rate that is $150 less per month than what Nathan had been charging her, because the proper rate for that unit based on the market is $1,250, not $1,400. She does not know what she started with that phone call. I sent her a card when she renewed. "Thank you for being such a great tenant. My father would have liked you." She texted back the same day. She said, "Your father sounds like he was a wonderful man. I'd love to hear about him sometime." I said, "I'd like that." My father's photograph is on my desk now, the one Marion has in her office. She had a copy made for me. He is grinning, holding the pen like a trophy. He built those 3 properties with his hands, with his weekends, with 19 years of the same truck, and every Wednesday at the same diner. He trusted his family to protect what he built. One of us failed him. One of us is trying to make it right. I think he would understand the difference. Here is what 3 years of nothing to report taught me. Trust is not passive. Trust is active. It requires maintenance the same way a rental property requires maintenance. You do not just hand someone the keys and walk away. You check in. You ask questions. You look at the numbers yourself, even when you believe completely in the person holding them. Not because you don't trust them, because trust maintained is stronger than trust assumed. My father checked his properties himself every month. He drove over, he walked the units, he talked to the tenants. I should have done the same with Nathan. I know that now. The properties are still there. 14 Cranston, 22 Benefit, 8. My father's 33 years of careful work. Still standing, still generating rent. Mine. If someone is managing something for you right now and you haven't looked at the numbers in a while, look this week. Not because you don't trust them, because looking is how trust stays healthy. Drop a comment and tell me your story. I read every single one. And subscribe. I am here every week with a new story. Same ending every time. She stayed calm, she stayed quiet, then she won.